So can a pickup swap make a 594 sound more like a Les Paul? I've compared many 594s and R9s over the years, and today we're going to put that question to the test. This 594 has premium PAF replicas installed, and the Les Paul has stock custom buckers. So let's compare each guitar, same amp, same settings, same player, and see what actually changes and what doesn't. I'm Jonathan, welcome to the channel. Over the years here, I've compared many 594s and Gibson Les Pauls, and one of the most common critiques I've received in the comments is that the 594 lacks the attitude of a great Les Paul. And so what exactly does that mean? Is it just the pickups that account for that, or is there something deeper going on? And so in this video, I'll compare my 594 with my Gibson Les Paul. This 594 is not stock, it's loaded with premium PAF replicas. And if the pickups were the missing ingredient, this 594 should be dangerously close to the attitude of a Les Paul. And so I'll do several sound comparisons inside and outside of a mix. I'll also provide a comparison of the PRS with the stock pickups versus the PAF replicas. And I'll share my observations along the way and wrap up with my conclusions at the end. And I would love to hear from you. What differences are you hearing? And ultimately, do you think a pickup swap can get the 594 more into Les Paul territory? If you dig what I'm doing here and you'd like to support the channel, check out some of the links in the description, including a free lesson over on my Patreon. Thank you. So before we dive into the sound samples, I wanted to give a quick overview of the pickups in each guitar. The Les Paul has Gibson custom buckers. These are the Sugar Bucker variant, which are exclusive to Sweetwater, which means they swap out the A3 magnets for A4, and it's a lower turn wind. I've swapped out the original PRS 5815 low turn pickups for a set of rewind creme brulee PAF replicas with 50s new old stock plain enamel wire. And these have A2 magnets. Now, while it would have been cool to test out the Sugar Buckers in both guitars, I didn't have an extra set of those, and that really wasn't what I was going for. I was more curious to learn how much closer a 594 could get to Les Paul territory with a high quality set of aftermarket PAF style pickups. So let's dive into the sound samples and find out. So at first, I will toggle through the neck, middle, and bridge position on both guitars. I'll play some lead lines with some light overdrive, and let's listen out for any differences in attack, sustain, and overall tonal characteristics. So I thought both guitars sounded great with plenty of sustain. The neck position had plenty of clarity on both guitars and pretty subtle differences. The middle position had plenty of quack and character as well. But where I heard the most pronounced differences was in the bridge position. The Les Paul had that familiar snarl and bite in upper mid-range presence, whereas the 594 was smoother in its attack and a bit sweeter in the mid-range. But really curious to know how you were hearing it. So up next, let's focus in on touch sensitivity and dynamic range. I'm gonna use some medium gain here. And I'm gonna start in the middle position with the neck volume rolled back a touch, around 8, and the bridge is gonna be on 10. And so in the middle position, I'll play a little more delicately. I'll switch to the bridge and dig in a bit more, and let's see how the dynamic range responds on each set of pickups. So I thought both guitars responded beautifully with plenty of touch sensitivity and bark when you dig in. But the Les Paul bridge position still had that sharper top end edge to it. It just cuts a little differently even with the same amount of gain. Let's take a closer look at the tonal differences in the bridge position in the context of a mix. I'll play the opening solo on both guitars, staying in the bridge position and A being back and forth, and listen out for any differences for how the pickup in each guitar cuts through the mix, and let me know which one you prefer and why. So again, I was hearing more upper mid-range bite and cut out of the Les Paul, and a more vocal, vowel-like mid-range with some honkiness coming out of the 594. I thought both guitars sounded awesome and had plenty of PAF character. In this scenario, I would most likely reach for the Les Paul, as I thought that mid-range characteristic helped it cut through the dense mix. However, I think with a touch of post-EQ, you could probably get the 594 to cut just as well, but my philosophy is to try to get things as correct as possible at the source. Now, I can imagine scenarios where I would prefer the 594's more vocal, vowel-like mid-range characteristic, and particularly in a more open, spacious track where it has room to speak. So I'll demonstrate that scenario a little bit later. So at this point, I think there's clearly something more going on than just the pickups that gives the Les Paul its distinct upper mid-range bite. And while these guitars share many common specs, there are some key differences, and I'm not going to go into all of those key differences in this video, but rather highlight the one key difference that I think is having the biggest impact on the overall differences in tone. And that is the location of the bridge pickup relative to the bridge. Now, we've all experienced as guitarists, the closer you pick to the bridge, the brighter the tone. The closer you pick to the neck, the warmer the tone. And on the Les Paul, the bridge pickup is located noticeably closer to the bridge than on the 594. Let's take some measurements and compare. I'm going to measure the distance between the hole piece on the E string and the saddle. So it's coming in over just 27 millimeters. And on the 594, that same measurement is coming in at just over 34 millimeters. So the location of the bridge pickup relative to the bridge on the 594 is over 7 millimeters further away, or over 25% further away as compared to the Les Paul. So it stands to reason that the 594 will have a slightly sweeter or warmer tone based on where the bridge pickup is relative to the bridge. And I think that is the limiting factor to just how much Les Paul attitude you can get out of your 594, regardless of pickup swaps. But it's just my best hypothesis based on some of this experimentation. If anyone's had any luck getting true Les Paul tone out of their 594, I'd be interested to know which pickups you tried and how you got there. So let me know in the comments below. So up next, let's check out how the original PRS 5815 low turn pickup sounds in the bridge position compared to the Rewind Creme Brulee. And specifically listen to that upper mid-range bite. And does the original PRS pickup sound more like a Les Paul in that regard, or does the Rewind? So interestingly enough here, I found that the original PRS pickup had a little more presence than the Rewind. I don't think it was all the way to Les Paul bite territory, but I do wonder if PRS specifically voiced in some extra presence, compensate for that sweeter vocal mid-range sound that they get by placing the bridge pickup a bit further from the bridge. I wouldn't be surprised given the amount of engineering and testing that goes into voicing PRS's guitars. I thought the Rewind pickup sounded warmer and had a more vintage-like clarity to it, while the 594 pickups had a bit more presence and a touch more output. And if you're curious to check out more comparisons between the PRS pickups and the Rewinds, I'll upload download several more sound samples across all pickup positions up on my Patreon. Check out the link below. So can your PRS 594 sound any more like a Les Paul with a PAF upgrade? And I think the short answer is not really. While I enjoyed the upgrade and it gave this guitar a more vintage-like response, the 594's fundamental voice remained. It has a sweeter top end and a more vocal-like mid-range, especially compared to the Les Paul bridge position, which has that quintessential Les Paul bite and attitude. And I don't think that's an accident. I think that's a deliberate design choice on part of PRS. I think PRS could absolutely design a burst killer, something that sounds more exacting to a Les Paul if they wanted to, but they've decided to develop a guitar that's more Les Paul adjacent and unmistakably their own. But I'd love to know what you think. Should PRS chase that burst tone or should they stay in their own lane? As a fan of both 594s and Les Pauls, I love having both voices, but I have to admit, I'd be very curious in the first to line up for burst killer option from PRS. I'm not sponsored by PRS, nor do I have any association with them, just a big fan of both Gibson and PRS and guitars in general. So I'll finish up with an outro jam, playing both guitars in a more spacious track, one which I prefer the more vocal mid-range characteristic of the 594. Let me know which one you preferred in that scenario, and thanks for the support. If you want to support further, check out some of the links below, and I will see you in the next video.